Hi, hello, and welcome again to another episode of Natural Juan. And this time we're going to cover GM Apprentice's Adventure Guide and Horror Deck. Now, before we continue, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell for notifications if you enjoy my content, so you can get more of my videos once I upload them. Anyway, the thing about GM Apprentice is that it allows you to make a random adventure out of nothing. It's one of the things that make it better than most other GM emulators is that you can have a new adventure on the fly with pretty much minimal preparations. But if you want a little more nuance, or if you want to make your adventure a little more, give it more twists and stuff like that, this is where the GM Adventure Guide comes in. So I have here the GM Emulator Framework Sheet, which is based on GM Apprentice's own framework sheet, as you will see. As you can see, well, mine is just a little more, how shall we say, compact, but yeah. It's pretty much the same thing. So now, in order to make things work, and I'm going to show you how this goes. See, the adventure guide, it allows you to make, like I said earlier, it allows you to put more twists and put a few more specifics into your adventure. So there we go. This is an explanation of how this works. It also says here that you can actually use this adventure guide on its own, but it's better if you have the cards to go with it. Let me show you a card here. Now first, let me show you a bit about the cards. The horror deck, as you can see, is pretty much the same as the original GM Apprentice cards, but it's got a scarier design. See, hockey mask evokes the Jason image. The sensory snippets are a little more scary, or at least ominous, like you hear childlike giggling. Drying paint. Well, drying paint isn't necessarily scary, but it could imply something. Now, hobby gear, that's not scary either, but it can imply stuff. Like, see there? Blood samples from victims. That's not just an implication anymore. You know that something is a little weird here. But ship in a bottle kit? Maybe not scary. Binoculars? No. But you can say he used the binoculars for immoral purposes. And maybe the ship in a bottle is an actual ship. See there? It's all about the implications of the stuff. Another here is vehicle maintenance gear. Again, in and of themselves, it's not really scary, but it could imply something bad. Besides the designs and the sensory snippets, like I mentioned, you really see that it's definitely different from the base deck. It is geared for something scarier. So, okay. Now let's go back to the adventure guide. So, the way to use this guide is to create an outline for your adventure. You have an idea of what'll happen, but not necessarily how it's going to play out. This is why this is good for both GMs who like me are kind of lazy, or for groups who don't have a GM. They can just make an outline of what they'll expect in game. So let's start. So first, let us choose a core. A core is the core theme of the game that you're going to play. For example, here are the cores. To drive back the dark. This is the more conflict between good and evil kind of thing. Like, it's the good guys fighting Dracula and putting an end to the terror he creates, or maybe, fighting Cthulhu and preventing him from destroying the world, that sort of thing. The next is to survive the night. Now, this is more I think, more nuanced than to drive back the dark, because this could be any group of characters or any characters. The character could be good, the character could be maybe not so good, but they are just trying to survive what's happening. It could mean that they're trying to escape a bad place, or maybe it's just literally surviving the night. Like, the vampires can only attack them at night, and when the sun rises, they can escape. That sort of thing. And next is, again, when it comes to survive the night, your character can be just about anything. He can be a car salesman or something like that. But in this night, he is the hero because he's trying to survive. The next is to gaze into the abyss. Now, this one is even a darker shade than to survive the night. To gaze into the abyss talks about heroes or straight up bad guys who want to use whatever scary stuff out there for their own ends. You can say, for example, maybe the government wants to use werewolves as soldiers. Where have I seen that before in a movie? Well, anyway, you get the idea. You get the scenario. They want to use supernatural creatures like werewolves, maybe vampires, maybe a group of Frankenstein's monsters. They intend to use those supernatural creatures as weapons in a war. So in this one, it's slightly darker because your character might likely be a bad guy. But maybe a bad guy who fights other bad guys. Who knows? But that's up to you. Now, let's ask a big question. So first, let's create a core. Since this is opened in Ironclaw, let's say to drive back the dark. And the main goal is exorcise evil ghosts from the Milan Manor. Yeah, Milan, I'm sorry. That's the only name I can think of right now. But come on, this is just a sample framework sheet, so don't hold it against me. Okay, now let's ask a main question. So this is what drives the player characters in this game. So what is the big question? So let's set the big question as, can the ghost of Oscar Milan, the necromancer, be driven away? See? Now we have a big question. Now let us choose a doom. The doom is essentially the main antagonist, or at least the force responsible for all the bad things that are happening. So this is what the heroes will be mainly fighting, or they will be a distant goal that the heroes will be fighting. The thing is about a doom is the heroes won't be facing it immediately. It's still quite far off, and they'll be confronting it only every now and again. It's not going to be an immediate threat to them. However, since this is a horror game, you can say that that occasionally it comes out and attacks the heroes every now and again, just to test their mettle and see if they'll survive. The Doom, like I said, is usually the end boss, the final boss, or the big boss, as some fellow Filipinos might say out there. But yeah, so our Doom will essentially be the ghost of Oscar Milan. So, there you go. He's our doom. So what is the doom's goal? So his goal here is to possess the body of Anna Charleston because he wants to be alive again. That's his goal. So who are the cast for the Doom? These are the people who will be involved in this main story. So you might as well put it in. So Oscar Milan. Oops. Wrong box. The Charleston family. And their house staff. So that's it. So that's mainly. Sorry about that. So what is his plan? I forgot to do that first. Sorry. So his main plan is to scare Anna Charleston into unconsciousness and helplessness so he can possess her body. Wait a minute. Sorry about that. Ow. Okay, let's continue. So then we have it. The Doom is the ghost of Oscar Milan. His goal is to possess the body of Anna Charleston. His plan is to scare Anna Charleston into unconsciousness and helplessness so he can possess her body. The cast, the people involved, are obviously Oscar Milan, the Charleston family, and their house staff. You know, their butlers, their maids, so on and so forth. Now, after that, we're going to choose 3 main problems for the protagonists or the player characters to face off against. So what will the players be facing? So yeah, here are the options. The Swarm is remember, these names aren't literal. They can be anything or anything somewhat related to their names. Like for example, the swarms can be bugs or rats, but they can also be demonic children, a large group of bandits, a large group of zombies. Typically, there's a lot of them. As it says here, they might not be a big problem if they come one at a time, but in large numbers, they are a big problem. The next is the graveyard. These are prisons, caverns, ancient ruins, and they're mostly places, right? And you're wondering, how is this a problem? Well, see, like for example, if it's a prison, maybe the prisoners have taken over and they're using the prison as their hideout. If it's a literal graveyard, maybe that's where the zombies and the ghosts are coming from. If it's a lost temple, it might be the home of evil spirits and stuff like that. Your beast is a masterful vampire. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a literal beast, but it can be a very dangerous opponent. Like, see there? An abusive spouse. An evil poltergeist. So, they're, how shall we say, they're one of the player's biggest opponents in this game. The next is the corruption. When you say corruption, this can be a curse or a plague. See, rampant distrust can also be bad because that can lead people to kill each other and stuff like that. Murmurs of rebellion. Now, while some rebellions might have actual good effects, they will certainly devastate a town and whatnot. Then we follow the same rules. We follow the same rules and give them a cast, a goal, and a plan. So let's get started. So the first problem is the problem 1, a large group of zombies. Their plan is to kill more people to add to their number. Their goal is simple: to multiply. And the cast here is the townsfolk. Townsfolk of Marybelle and the zombies. Remember, I'm just making this on the fly, so I didn't really prepare for this. Problem number 2 is the local graveyard. What is it doing? Its goal is to disgorge zombies. Its plan is to just disgorge more zombies. And the cast here is, of course, the zombies. Now again, I will tell you, the thing with the problems in this game is some of them can be optional. Like the players can choose not to fight them. But since these so-called problems will be slowing down their adventure, it'll be preventing them from destroying the ghost or banishing the ghost of Oscar Mylon, it's in their best interest to face them, or at least stop them from whatever they are doing. Maybe, so they don't have to face them, but they'll have it better if they do, if they put a stop to them. So problem number 3 is a goblin. Or, since this is Ironclaw, a Morigni war goblin. So his goal is to, let's assume he made a deal with Oscar Mylon when Oscar Mylon was still alive, and his goal is to prevent anyone from stopping Oscar Mylon's revival. His plan is to attack anyone trying to stop Oscar Mylon. And the cast here is, of course, the Morigni. So like I said, you don't have to face all of them necessarily, but if you put down all of them, stopping Oscar Mylon becomes easy. And next, since we give time to create little questions, these are essentially, the other things that might affect your characters or might affect the story. For example, can the townsfolk hold out against the zombies? Another would be, can the local graveyard be blessed? And thirdly, can someone face the war goblin? These kinds of questions. Sometimes they're related to the problems. Sometimes they can also be related to the actual doom. Like, for example, does the Charleston family have any help they can call on? These are the kinds of questions these are the little questions that can drive the story forward. Now, the next one is, see? So here is how you put them together. The next one that I will showcase here is the premises, such as minor quests that your characters can do. I'll be calling up our little dice here, so it can generate quest for us. So the quest giver asks you to complete this task because reasons. See, okay, let me show you. Okay, here we go. All we need is a D10. So our first quest giver will be a shadowy figure at the bar, or an old wanderer. Sounds like an interesting start. An old wanderer. Again, we are using protection. What do they want? What does the old wanderer want? Number 2, destroy an unholy place. Place because, let's see our reasons for doing it. I'm going to show you here in a minute. Yeah, these are the list of reasons. You must to prevent, because it will prevent Oscar Mylon from gaining more power. So you see, these are just some of the, again, here are more stuff. So here are some premise symbols, like how the tower, remember, like here, these symbols here, these are what they mean. From the tower meaning fortresses or buildings, a crown can mean wealth, a heart can be about family or friendship, and love, obviously. Skull is about death. Well, it is a skull. A sun, a ray of hope in the darkness, like light. A moon can mean confusion or hidden evils, like maybe insidious ghosts and stuff like that. A sword can be about violence. A shield is about protection. A target might affect the target's sanity more. And the wand may be about magic and stuff like that. And here's another interesting facet of the GM Apprentice Adventure Guide. Usually in most RPGs, your NPCs might be merchants and peasants or stuff like that. So here, it can be just about anything. So you can run into any of these 10. Like, for example, I meet a new person on the road. What does he? A number 9, an occult specialist. So he can be a priest, a medium, or a professional skeptic. To make your adventure more interesting, because everybody can't be a farmer and everybody can't be a merchant. I mean, come on. And again, with the tag symbols, this can represent their personality. Like a moon can mean they're hiding something. Sword can mean they're trained in combat or they can be violent. A target can mean that they're after or they have a certain goal. A skull can mean they're sickly or they have a dangerous disease. And here are pre-made combos. Like, the thing with these cards are, sometimes you might draw cards and their idea generators just don't drive. Like, for example, it might come out something like obvious secret, or maybe humiliate shame, something like that. That doesn't make sense, right? So here, for the adventure guide, it makes it easier. It has already a pre-made combo that you can use using a D10. So here are some ideas, like they discover something evil going on. They can think of, or maybe involving killing a witch or something like that. Or you've lost signal with your phone. Stuff goes on. Next, you have your horror encounters, like what can happen during an adventure, like they encounter a new enemy, or maybe they encounter a new ally. Anything is possible. And here is uncertainty. There's always the possibility that something will happen that you didn't plan for. For games with GMs, this is something that you can watch out for. But for the ones without GMs, this makes the game all the more fun because you don't know what's happening. And here we go. Fearful chaos. So, for example, you use the tension system that can be found here. So, if you draw a number that's... Okay, so what happens here is, in order to build up for an encounter, I'll probably demonstrate this sometime soon, but as you go from scene to scene without encountering anything, the tension builds. And if you happen to draw a card that is equal to or lower than the current tension score, that means something happens. After that encounter is dealt with, it resets to 1 again. So it builds up. That's how the tension system works. Perhaps next time in a demo game I can show you how this works. And here we go. Who can you trust? So what do these symbols can mean? Any of that. It can mean like your weapons fail you. A shield means your armor fails you. Or a tower, like the people you're working with turn out to be traitors and stuff like that. So, and here are more tips, like questionable decisions. So, always keep track of your decisions because this might have some influence for later incidents in the game. Now, if you are a GM, this is obviously your job because this will make the game more fun. For those without GMs, be sure to keep track of these little decisions because it can be another plot point. Like your character used to work maybe at a hospital. Maybe this gives them a little bit of medical knowledge, just enough to let them help when someone is injured, that kind of thing. So, yeah. So that pretty much it sums up the GM Apprentice Adventure Guide and the Horror Deck. So I hope you liked that my little presentation today, despite all the mistakes I'm having and my throat giving me trouble. But I certainly hope you liked it. And if you did, please feel free to like and share. And if you want more stuff like this, hit that subscribe and press that bell for notifications. See you next time and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.